If I were to ask you what's your favourite spy revolver, I'll get a myriad of different responses. Whether it is the consistency of stock, the utility of the Latranja, hitting headshots with the Ambassador, or the sheer power of the Diamondback, there isn't a bad option in his arsenal and they can all fulfill their own roles. But some of you may have noticed I missed one out. Obviously the big kill, the reskin for stock. No. I missed out one particular weapon, the Enforcer, and some of you may have even forgotten it exists. So just what is up with the Enforcer? Why is it that it is just completely forgotten, and those who do actually remember its existence just thinks that it's really terrible? Are they right? Or is the Enforcer just terribly, terribly misunderstood? I'm never one to just simply disregard a weapon. I will always try and pick apart and try and find any use that they have. So let's do this, because personally, I love this weapon. So, starting from the top, the Enforcer features a 20% damage bonus while disguised, which brings your maximum damage while at ramp up from 60 to 72. At base, it goes from 40 to 48. And your damage at maximum fall off from 21 all the way up to 25. Now, on paper, this doesn't really seem like much, considering you're only disguised for the first shot, and after that, it is just the stock revolver, in terms of damage. But still, being able to start an encounter dealing 4, 8 or 12 more damage, or in between considering how ramp up scales, is really good and beneficial as a spy. So, where do I begin? Well, first of all, with your first shot dealing 72 damage, if you're in maximum ramp up range, you are able to 2-shot a light class. With you dealing 72 and then 60 damage, you're able to dish out 132 damage just within 2 shots, whereas the stock revolver would deal 60 and then 60 and need an entire third shot in order to finish off an enemy. So there are a couple of common complaints that people have with this. First of all being that you can do this with the Ambassador or the Diamondback for the same results. And yes, with the Diamondback, if you have a kill beforehand, you can 2-shot an enemy with your critical hit and a standard shot. With the Ambassador, you are able to headshot and then you body shot for the same effect. And yes, this is true. Although with the Diamondback, sometimes you just don't have a kill yet, and then all you have is a weaker stock revolver, where you need a 3-shot regardless. And sure, you could just use the Ambassador and get an easier kill. However, sometimes their head isn't actually available for you, and sometimes you could just miss. The head hitbox is significantly smaller than the entire body hitbox. And sometimes it is easier and quicker to just go for a body shot for the 2-shot instead of trying to aim it for the head. If the enemies are moving about too quickly or your aim just isn't up to scratch, the Enforcer is a really good side grade to the Ambassador, allowing you to get 2-shot kills on lighter classes without needing the skill or the preparation or the time to line up a headshot. And the other major complaint that people have with the Enforcer is that you need to be so close in order to actually reach the damage threshold of a 2-shot that you may as well just backstab your target. In which case people say that the only thing you can reliably 2-shot is a Razorback sniper. Which, first of all, this isn't true. Throughout this entire video, I've probably already shown and will continue to show clips where I make use of me 2-shotting enemies with the Enforcer who are not Razorback snipers. Sometimes there is just an enemy who is just out of your reach, and running to them with your knife will just take a little bit too long, in which case the Enforcer's damage buff allows you to 2-shot them and get away without needing to waste time closing the gap for a stab. You see, as a spy, there is only realistically 2 times that you would ever want to use your gun. And that is A, if you are caught out by an enemy player and need to defend yourself. Your gun can shoot faster and deal more damage than trying to butter knife them. Please stop trying to do that. And the other thing you would want to use your revolver for is to pick off a low health enemy who you either cannot get in range to stab, or it's just quicker to shoot them. This is particularly useful considering that the spy can see enemy players' HP. And having a damage bonus on your first shot from being disguised makes you stronger in both of these aspects. If you're being caught out, your first shot to defend yourself deals extra damage. Yippee! And if you are cloaked somewhere and you see a low health enemy come by, you can decloak, shoot them once, and maybe the extra damage allows you to secure a kill in just one shot instead of two. When discussing the Enforcer's damage bonus, people seem to target just the maximum damage it can do, being 72, and say that it's only good for max ramp-up range kills on Razorback snipers. But it is useful at all ranges. Base damage, you can deal an extra 8 damage, and that is quite a lot. If you do ever see an enemy walk close by with around 50 HP, the stock revolver would need 2 shots to kill them, unless you are right in their face. But with the Enforcer's damage buff, you can kill them from significantly further away, in just one shot, allowing you to secure kills you might not have been able to before. And yes, you can do this with the Diamondback and the Ambassador. But with the Diamondback, you need to first either sap an engineer's building or get a backstab, and then waste an entire critical hit on them. And with the Ambassador, you need to spend time lining up a headshot. And sometimes you just do not have enough time, and by the time you have lined, I said time a lot, oh my gosh. And by the time you have lined up that headshot, they could have already gone out of your range. Or you could just accidentally body shot them, give away your position, and do even less damage than you would have with stock. Simply put, the extra damage from being disguised is really useful in every situation. Believe it or not, dealing extra damage is a really good upside. Compared to its competitors who also deal extra damage, it is a lot more safe and less risky. You don't need to spend time lining up a headshot, and you don't need to get a stab and waste a critical hit. It's less risky, and there is less reward. At least I would say that, although, to be honest, being able to hit someone for 102 damage doesn't really cross any damage thresholds. You can still two-shot people with the Enforcer and with the Ambassador. Sure, against a soldier, for example, you can two-shot them with 2 headshots. But thanks to that weapon also having a headshot cooldown, it will take a long time, and sometimes they could just kill you, and the Enforcer might have just been a better choice. In fact, while the Ambassador can do 102 damage on a headshot, its body shot damage at maximum is only 51. Whereas the Enforcer, with its disguise shot bonus, deals 72 damage, its base damage is still 60, meaning if you do not make use out of headshots, even if you do get the headshot off of your first hit, the Enforcer will eventually overtake the Ambassador in damage. In just 4 shots, the Ambassador deals less damage over time than the Enforcer. And in the short term, you both need 2 shots in order to kill a light class. Sure, the Ambassador can 2-shot a medic with a headshot and a body shot, but aside from that, the damage thresholds is the same. So why would you want to put up with the hassle of lining up a headshot and potentially missing, if you can just shoot them regularly and get the damage buff for free anyway? So hopefully by this point in the video, I have been able to defend this damage buff, and show you that actually it is a really good stat. Although, a weapon is more than just its upsides, so we need to look at the... oh, wait. The Enforcer also has another upside? Yeah, so the Enforcer is the only weapon in the entire game which has this upside. Attacks, pierce, damage resistance effects, and bonuses. So what this means is any weapon which has a damage resistance, the Enforcer will just ignore it. This is a really random stat, and frankly there are not a lot of weapons which have damage resistances to begin with. But let's take a look at this as well. So, the weapons that it can ignore. The Vaccinator's 10% bullet resistance and the 75% bullet resistance from the Ubercharge is not really that impactful considering they'll have overheal and everything. Gunning them down, while more effective than any other class and any other spy revolver, is just not effective to begin with. Although, compared to any other revolver in the same situation, the Enforcer is 100% the best option, so if there are a lot of Vaccinator medics, you know which one to pick. Anyone who is under the effects of the battalion's backup will also have this damage reduction pierced. Now, people think that this is completely useless considering trying to gun down a soldier doesn't tend to go well, but if the soldier eventually does get to low HP, you can two-shot them or one-shot them with your increased damage bonus, far more easier than any other spy revolver can, since you will pierce the damage resistance. Plus, this resistance isn't just applied to the soldier, it's applied to anyone who is nearby the soldier during the buff, meaning if there is another low health enemy who you would normally be able to two or one-shot, you still can, because the damage resistance means nothing to you. Now, those two, while slightly cool, aren't too impactful because they don't show up often, and Spy isn't the best target towards them. But there are some more. Heavies using the Brass Beast or the Natasha will have a 20% damage resistance while under 50% HP. Now, people say this is also completely useless because getting close to a heavy means you're either gonna die or you can just stab them. And while, yes, this is a fair criticism, if they're in a position where you can't easily stab them, like on high ground, you can shoot them. You can bypass their resistance, and if you are in a situation where you need to bypass the resistance, they will be at maximum 150 HP, in which case you can free-shot them, and if they're being shot at by any other enemy, it will most likely just be a two-shot. And speaking of heavies, the 40% damage resistance from the Fists of Steel. People have the same criticisms about this, however, if you see a heavy with the Fists of Steel actively held out, you can just shoot them, because if a heavy has the Fists of Steel out, they will most likely be at low HP, using it to retreat. Whereas you can just shoot them a couple times and bypass the resistance. Plus, getting close to a heavy with their melee out is kind of risky considering they can turn around, left click once, and remove you from existence with a random crit. So sometimes it is safer and easier to shoot a low HP heavy, in which case the Enforcer is the best option. Especially when you remember it still deals 20% more damage while you are disguised. Okay, and now I'm going to talk about Spy, and I don't mean you Spy, I mean enemy spies. You know how they can go invisible? They get a damage resistance from this. With the Cloak and Dagger and the Invisible Watch, it's 20%. With the Enforcer, you can bypass it, allowing you to two-shot invisible spies. So if for some reason you do ever bump into a spy, shoot them once, and if you're good enough, you can be able to shoot them again, and be able to just wipe them out of existence before they can even react. But that's not the best part. Where this really shines is with the Dead Ringer, because the Dead Ringer has a 75% damage resistance upon triggering, and then 65% damage resistance for 3 seconds after. This is really broken and really annoying to fight against. But if you've been paying attention, you'll know that the Enforcer will just ignore this, meaning again, you can just two-shot them if you're disguised. Oh, and also, do you remember how much damage the Enforcer does at point-blank range while disguised? Oh, why, it's 72 damage, of course. So if you ever find a really annoying Dead Ringer kunai spy, not only can you one-shot them when you're disguised, but if they try and pop the Dead Ringer, it doesn't work because you completely bypass that resistance and can just one-shot them. Yeah, You can bypass other spies' dead ringer with the Enforcer. It's amazing! Spy is the counter to Spy! You might think this doesn't come up often, but honestly it comes up so much if you're paying attention, and it is really funny and actually game-changing. And that is all of the damage resistances. Oh, no, actually there's one more. One you might probably be screaming at me. It's called the Wrangler. The Wrangler is really annoying for every single class to deal with, because it triples a sentry's HP, and the engineer can just heal it and tank every single bit of damage. Except for you. The Enforcer can bypass this resistance, and with an entire clip dumped into it, can defeat a Wrangled sentry, even if it is level 3. And Wrangled minis are no different. 3 shots and bye-bye, they're gone. And since buildings don't take damage ramp up or fall off, you will always deal 40 damage to them depending on your range. So you can be as far away from the engineer as possible, defeat their sentry gun from another country, and be all fine. So yeah, I guess the Enforcer is the best for taking out a Wrangled sentry, but the Spy has a sapper. So you can just go up to the engineer, stab them, and then sap the sentry, and it's all fine. But if the engineer is in a position that you can't get to, like on a roof, or if they have a good team for protecting them, then this could be your only option to fight back. Not only that, but if the engineer is in a position that you can't get to them, do you know what you can do? Get close enough, 2-shot them with the Enforcer, and then while the Wrangler's shield is still up, sap it and then shoot it. With it being able to deal the most damage to the sentry, considering it will bypass that 66% damage resistance that the shield gives it. Seriously, if there is a really annoying Wrangler engineer that you just can't get to, the Enforcer is the best option. You can quickly take out the engineer, and then gun down the sentry like no other revolver can. Now, sadly, there are a couple of resistances that are not affected by the Enforcer. Now, bear with me guys, but the Manpower's 50% damage resistance from the resistance power-up is not bypassed. I know, it's horrible. Yeah, power-ups in Manpower get to bypass the Enforcer's bypassing, but I don't think you have ever played Manpower, so this does not affect you. The critical hit immunity from the battalion's backup, I don't know why this is on the wiki, it's not really a damage resistance, but I guess I'll say that. The Enforcer can't get random crits anyway, so unless you have a Crits Krieg medic, or if it's Halloween, then this won't affect you either. Oh yeah, speaking of Halloween, with the disguise bonus, your shots will deal 144 damage on a critical hit, which means if it's a Halloween game mode and you get tons of pumpkin bombs, the Enforcer's a really funny pick. Anyway, back to resistances. Bonk Atomic Punch and Ubercharge, sadly, you cannot bypass 100% damage resistance. I know, I tried. And finally, something which made me cry to sleep last night, the hidden 33% damage resistance gained by sapped sentry guns. Yeah, if you didn't know, sentry guns in which you have sapped gain a 33% damage resistance to your revolver. This is done so that Spy isn't a complete hard counter to Engineer, I guess, or something, I don't know. But sadly, this is not pierced by the Enforcer. Honestly, if they would change it and make it so that it was pierced by the Enforcer, I feel like it would make it even better than it is now, because I don't think it's bad at all. But if this one thing were to be changed, and so that the Sapper armor was bypassed by the Enforcer's damage resistance piercing stat, then I think it would really find its spot in the meta. If you need to bust a sentry gun as Spy, you should use the Enforcer. Sadly, I doubt that will happen. I mean, there have been a couple of bug fixes, and it is unclear on whether this is a bug or an intended feature, so I pray that it is a bug and will be fixed in the next update. I'm delusional. Okay. Enough about what ifs and in the future. We're talking about the Enforcer now. So that is all of the upsides. You deal a little bit more damage on your first hit when you're disguised, and you can pierce damage resistances. Pretty good stats when I broke it down. Okay, now it is time to go on to the downsides, because no matter how good the upsides on a weapon is, if the downsides are even worse, it isn't worth using. Now I've already mentioned the fact that it has no random critical hits, but what else does it have? The only other downside which the Enforcer has is a 20% slower firing speed. Just that, just a 20% slower firing speed. Why do people think this weapon is bad again? I mean, seriously, 20% slower firing speed is nothing. The stock revolver has an attack interval of 0.5 seconds. The Enforcer is 0.6. That changes practically nothing. And actually, thanks to the Enforcer's damage buff, you're able to two-shot some classes, and the classes who you always need to free-shot, you can free-shot them more consistently from further away thanks to this damage buff. So really, what is the big deal? Like, seriously, what am I supposed to say about this downside? It means practically nothing. Its own upside helps to balance out this downside. The fact that you can two-shot and more reliably free and four-shot other classes basically negates it. You know, other weapons have this downside too. The Tomislav has a 20% slower firing speed as its only downside. The Ubersaw has it. I've never heard someone say these are terrible weapons because of their downside. You would be laughed at and bullied. So why is the Enforcer any different? Seriously, why? I'm asking this genuinely, why is this weapon any different? It has the same downside as tons of other weapons. I went on for 20 minutes talking about how good its upsides are and all the use cases for them. Just for the downside, the only meaningful one, because I'm not going to say random crits is meaningful, the only meaningful downside is just a 20% slower firing speed. That means nothing. In order for this downside to mean something against the stock revolver, is if you fire your entire clip out, which will take 3.6 seconds, where the stock revolver will take 3 seconds. Which the damage buff of the Enforcer helps cover, because you don't need that other shot in order to take out an enemy, because the extra damage helps cover it. Looking at it in this way, the time to kill is either the same or better with the Enforcer. Sure, if there are multiple enemies, like 20 of them, then yeah, I guess the stock revolver is better. But I think you're just gonna die. You know what? I feel like I need to convince you more, don't I? So, you know what? I don't even think this is a downside. This is actually just another upside to the Enforcer. Now, stay with me, okay? Because this weapon fires 0.1 seconds slower, it gives you 0.1 more seconds in order to readjust your shot for when the enemies react to your first one. Since it fires slower, it allows you to be more precise with your shots, leading to less misses provided you're good. Now, you all know about random bullet spread and how, you know, when you shoot the revolver, it isn't 100% accurate. It takes 1.25 seconds in order to go back to first shot accuracy. Not many people know this, but the Enforcer is actually more accurate than stock, being with its first shot accuracy only taking 0.9 seconds, just like the Ambassador. This downside means nothing to me, okay? It just means nothing. It barely impacts you. And if you spend time to actually line up your shot and make use of the first shot accuracy, then this is basically a straight upgrade. So that is enough about me ragging on about this useless downside which barely means anything. Are there any secret synergies to master the Enforcer? I mean, not really. Spy has no synergies most of the time. But I have found that my favorite knife to use the Enforcer with is the Spicicle. Sometimes with the Spicicle, you have the easiest stab in your life, you're about to go for it, and then you get hit by one flame particle, and now your knife is gone. Uh-oh, what are you gonna do? Well, what you're gonna do is switch to the Enforcer and be able to two-shot an enemy if they're a light class you're about to stab. If you're gonna stab them, you're gonna be in enough range to two-shot them. Now sure, if they're a pyro or a demoman or a soldier, it's not gonna be a two-shot, but the extra damage bonus helps you a lot. Plus, it helps defend against the pyro if they just caught you out without you going for a stab. But, I mean, other than that, I personally just don't think Spy's weapons combo together at all. Like, not really. I mean, your invisible watches is more important on just the game state itself and not your loadout. Unless it's the Deadry, in which case you're always using the kunai. And your knives just depend on which on-kill buff you want. Unless it is the Spicicle, which I've already mentioned. Either way, that was the Enforcer. I really love this weapon. Has a nice name, looks cool, has a great upside with its damage bonus, and the piercing attack bonus is fairly nice as well. Its downside is practically meaningless, so why don't you just give it a go?